is over.
Saber versus conocer. Saber versus conocer. Es importante porque saber y conocer significan to know. Pues, ¿cómo sabemos cuándo usar cada verbo? Primero tenemos que saber cómo conjugar. El verbo como conocer conjugué con yo conozco, I know, tú conoces, you know, él conoce, he knows, ella conoce, she knows, usted conoce, you formal know. Nosotros conocemos, we know, ellos conocen, they know, ellas conocen, they know, ustedes conocen, you all know. En español usamos conocéis. It's important to note here that the only irregular conjugation of conocer is in the yo form. The rest of the conjugations follow your regular er verb endings.
Scotty, beam me up.
El verbo saber. Las conjugaciones de saber son yo sé, I know, tú sabes, you know, él o ella sabe, he or she knows, usted sabe, you know, nosotros sabemos, we know, y ellos saben o ellas saben, they know, ustedes saben, you all know. Y en España es vosotros sabéis. Otra vez, la forma de saber en yo es irregular, pero las otras formas son regulares, como los verbos de er. Can you conjugate these verbs? Since we have two verbs here that both mean to know, it's important to understand when to use each one. So when we use saber, we first need to make sure that we know that we use it when we're talking about knowing a piece of information. For example, it says here, Marta sabe la dirección. The information here is the address. Knowing the address, that piece of information, would be a reason why you would use saber. Another example of that is when you're talking about knowing how to do something. You know that you're talking about how to do something because saber is followed by the infinitive. Here's an example. Señora Bowden sabe hablar español. That translates to Mrs. Bowden knows how to speak Spanish. Another example of that would be ¿Sabes usar la computadora? The translation is do you know how to use the computer? Here again, saber is followed by an infinitive which tells us that we're talking about knowing how to do something.
Computer, status report.
So when do we use conocer? We use conocer when we're talking about knowing knowing a person. And if we know a person, we need to use the personal a after that conjugation. Here's an example. Quiero conocer a William Shatner. I would like to know William Shatner. Another example is Yo conozco a Patrick Stewart. I know Patrick Stewart. In both of these cases, we need the personal a because we're talking about being familiar with a person. You'll also use conocer with animals as well. Like let's say that you know Shamu. So yo conozco a Shamu. We also use conocer when we're talking about knowing or being familiar with a place. The example they give here is no conozco Mexico. I am not familiar with Mexico. Notice that we don't need the personal I here because Mexico is a place, not a person. Verbs. Write down which verb you would use for each phrase. You don't need to conjugate. You just need to decide, am I using saber or conocer? Be sure that you send these answers to the Dropbox.
Please specify.
Please specify.
Bolivia.
Please specify.
Please
How to
specify.
play the piano.
Please specify.
Please
Meeting
specify.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Please specify.
Please
Knowing
specify.
what time the game starts.
Please specify.
Please
Knowing
specify.
how much something cost.
Please specify.
Please
Communique
specify.
with yes.
Do not play games with me.
Take a moment to conjugate. Not only do you have to decide, which verb to use, saber or conocer, but you have to conjugate. Write your answers down and send them to the Dropbox. Please continue to answer these questions.
Computer status report.